Reborn on the very first day I returned to my real family, I pretended to warmly greet the fake daughter, Qing. My sister looks just like my foster mother, doesn't she? Could it be that my foster mother swapped us? And the way she's looking at my brother. It doesn't seem quite right either. Why is she always clinging to father like that? It's already inappropriate for a real daughter to be so close, let alone someone who isn't even his biological child. These thoughts raced wildly in my mind. Sure enough, everyone's expressions shifted. I smiled. In my past life, Qing used their ability to hear my inner thoughts against me, leading to my expulsion from the family home and my torture to death. This time, I would have my fun toying with her. Sister, welcome home. I'll definitely do my best to take care of you and make up for your 15 years of wandering. Our parents are wonderful people, famous philanthropists, you know. Since you're their biological daughter, they'll surely treat you exceptionally well. Oh, and our second brother, Cheng, isn't home right now. When he returns, I'm sure he'll be thrilled to find his real sister. Qing, my parents' adopted daughter, beamed at me, her eyes overflowing with enthusiasm. Yet just 2 minutes earlier, while our parents were absent, she had spoken words that were the complete opposite, with a sinister expression. Do you think this is some kind of paradise? Our parents are child-abusing maniacs. I've been beaten almost every day since I was little. Now that you're back, they won't spare you either. Do you even know how you were abandoned all those years ago? It was your biological brother who tried to kill you. You were lucky to be found and taken away. Anyway, this family is really twisted. I can only wish you good luck. From my memories of the previous life, this family was indeed very twisted. The only twisted one, however, was Qing herself. My parents were not abusive maniacs. They were loving parents who tried their best to make up for my lost childhood. The reason Qing spread rumors and sowed seeds of doubt in my heart was simply because they could all hear my inner thoughts. She twisted my perception of my parents, making them feel my rejection and strange personality through my inner monologue. All their guilt was eventually worn down by Qing's deliberate provocations and slander. I was driven out of the house by them, then run over and killed by Qing. My death was gruesome, my remains were not intact, and she even threw my ashes into a septic tank. Reborn, I wanted revenge. I wanted her to experience what it felt like to be shunned by everyone. And so, I began my performance of inner thoughts. No way, no way, did Qing really say our parents were child-abusing maniacs? That doesn't sound like them at all. Is Qing spreading rumors? But why would she do that? Is it to drive a wedge between me and our parents? All these years, my foster mother beat and scolded me. I lived a life worse than a dog. I miss my parents so much, I won't believe Qing's words. Sure enough, my parents' expressions subtly shifted, their suspicious glances sweeping over Qing. Qing's face went pale and she forced a laugh. Sister, have you been under a lot of stress while living outside all these years? I feel like your mental state isn't quite normal. She wanted to disavow any connection, blaming everything on my supposed mental issues, so I seized the opportunity. I nodded. Yes, that's right. My foster mother, Mrs. Lan, often starved me for 2 days straight. Once I was so hungry I started hallucinating. But why does Qing look so familiar to me? Oh right, doesn't she look just like my foster mother? What a coincidence. They're not related at all, yet they look like they were cast from the same mold. Surely, there can't be such a melodramatic coincidence, can there? A flicker of complex emotions crossed my parents' eyes very quickly. Finally, Mother took my hand. Meng, don't be afraid. From now on, your parents are your support. We won't spare those who hurt you. My parents are truly good people. All the suffering I endured before, it was worth it. Qing's expression grew increasingly unsightly. Parents, why don't we take my sister for a checkup first? What if she's falsely accusing someone? I knew she had a guilty conscience. After all, she was indeed Mrs. Lan's biological daughter. All those years ago, Mrs. Lan gave birth in the hospital, and during a nurse's shift change, she swapped Qing and me. She put her biological daughter into my family to become a noble young lady, while I was taken by her to live like a beast of burden. How could Qing say such a thing? Did I inflict all these wounds on myself? Why is Qing protecting Mrs. Lan like that? Could it be that those two really have some kind of relationship? Qing frantically shook her head. Parents, please don't misunderstand. I just meant we should get her checked first. If she really has problems, then we'll have proof when we help her vent her anger. My parents' suspicious gazes gradually calmed. All right, let's go, Meng. Your parents will take you for a checkup. Although before my real parents took me home, Mrs. Lan had painstakingly treated my wounds to make them fade. But under professional examination, the fact that I had been abused for over 10 years was fundamentally established. My mother's eyes reddened. That woman is truly worse than a beast. My child, how could she have the heart to do it? My father clenched his fists. We've already reported it to the police. They will definitely not let her off. At this moment, the doctor also brought the mental health report. Fortunately, the child's mental state is fine. There might be some psychological trauma, but currently, she is normal. My parents breathed a sigh of relief. How could I have mental problems? I always speak the truth. Everything I thought was indeed the truth. So Qing had really spread rumors, and she truly had a connection to Mrs. Lan. Mother hugged me, but her eyes, filled with disappointment, were fixed on Qing. Qing, I know that suddenly having your sister back might make you uncomfortable, but your father and I have raised you all these years, and there's affection between us. We absolutely won't stop loving you just because your sister is back. So you must think clearly, and absolutely do not say the wrong things or do the wrong deeds, understand? Qing lowered her head, nodding meekly, feeling wronged. My father stared at her for a long time. By the way, Qing, let me ask you, do you know your sister's foster mother, Mrs. Lan? She abruptly looked up, shaking her head vigorously with an innocent expression. Father, why are you asking that? Of course I don't know her. I've been in this house since I was born. You know everyone I know. My father looked at her, full of hidden meaning. I hope so. The police couldn't find Mrs. Lan. This was easy for me to understand. All these years, my parents had given Qing a 6-figure monthly allowance for living expenses. Hiding someone was as easy as turning one's hand over. Moreover, if Mrs. Lan were found, Qing's true identity would also be exposed. Even if she could argue that she knew nothing about these matters, that she was just a child then, and everything was orchestrated by Mrs. Lan, she would forever be branded as Mrs. Lan's daughter. Every time my parents saw her, it would be like seeing the scars on my body. Therefore, letting Mrs. Lan escape was the best outcome. Currently, even though my parents suspected the relationship between Mrs. Lan and Qing, as long as Mrs. Lan didn't appear, Qing remained the second young lady of this household. My parents arranged for me to be in the same class as Qing. When I arrived, she was already the most popular person in the class. The moment I stepped in, I heard my name flying all over the place. Qing's sister, Meng, is transferring today. I heard she grew up in the countryside, ugly and countrified. Didn't Qing say so? Her sister has a bad temper, mental issues, she's a total lunatic. How unlucky. She only got in here because her family has money. Being classmates with a lunatic, I'll be trembling with fear while studying. I walked into the classroom, and the space suddenly fell silent. Everyone's eyes were glued to my face. Qing enthusiastically waved at me. Sister, why don't you sit with me? I told the teacher you hate sitting with other people, so just sit with me. I had never said anything like that, but as soon as her words finished, everyone's eyes carried hostility, as if they had already taken Qing's words for granted. I don't hate sitting with other people at all. My classmates all look so nice, beautiful, handsome, with extraordinary auras. If I sit with them, I'll surely improve quickly. Why would Qing say something like that? Is it to drive a wedge between me and my classmates? Is it because now that I'm back, our parents don't love her as much as before, so she's jealous of me and doesn't want me to live in peace? Yes, everyone in this world could hear my inner thoughts. Everyone cast hostile glances at Qing. Her face flushed, wanting to explain but not knowing where to start. I gave a simple self-introduction and sat next to Qing, my gaze directed towards a girl with earrings sitting at the first desk. This must be the young lady from the White family that Qing talked about, right? She said Lily White was arrogant and unruly, had a chaotic private life, and even had an abortion. But I don't think she's like that at all. Her earrings are beautiful, very individualistic. Why does Qing always love to spread such nasty rumors? Well, sorry, this time I was the one spreading rumors. I knew this girl came from an extraordinary background. Her father's infidelity and her mother's overly strong personality led her to develop a solitary character, always associating with thugs outside school. Despite her young age, she was known to fight fiercely. Even adult men were no match for her. So, in this school, she was truly the undisputed big sister. The queen bee turned her head, looking at me suspiciously. What's wrong? Why is she looking at me with that expression? This girl is so beautiful. Why would Qing slander her like that? 2 seconds later, she coldly looked at Qing. Qing's look of surprise at me hadn't even receded when cold sweat broke out. Her smile was incredibly stiff. Sister, has your mental illness relapsed? I had prepared for this. I pulled out my mental health report. Qing, why do you keep saying I have mental problems? Didn't I go to the hospital for a checkup the other day? I'm perfectly fine. Look, the report is all here. Lily White turned her head to glance at the report. A chilling smile curved her lips, her eyes like daggers shot straight at Qing. Qing, wait for me after school today. I have something to say to you. Qing looked at me in terror, not caring about anything else. When did I ever speak ill of Lily White? Are you sick, sister? You're deliberately framing me. I looked at her in surprise. When did I ever frame her? I didn't say a single word out loud, did I? I only thought it in my heart. Is that illegal? I didn't say it out loud, did I? Did I accidentally blurt it out? What's going on? Lily White's gaze grew colder and colder. All right, I don't want to hear your excuses. Qing, if you dare to run after school today, I guarantee you won't be able to survive in this city. Lily White was a high-class delinquent, the type from a powerful family. She wasn't the kind of blonde hooligan who looked for a fight and then ran. She was a cold young lady who made people kneel at her feet and take a beating. Qing was about to cry, frantically looking at me. The class monitor, Ethan, couldn't bear to watch and rushed over. Come on, Lily White, there must be a misunderstanding here. Think about it, Qing always treated you so well. She gave you whatever you wanted. How could she possibly speak ill of you behind your back? I think this Meng girl is the one with the problem. While Lily White's eyes were confused, my inner thoughts appeared again. But Qing really did say that. What's wrong with me? Could everyone really hear my inner thoughts? Hey, isn't this the class monitor, Ethan? No wonder. Qing said Ethan was a sycophant, always circling around her, and in reality wasn't even worthy of carrying her books. Looking at it now, he really seems to treat her well. How could she mock him behind his back like that? Ethan's face changed through all 7 colors of the rainbow. He looked at Qing in disbelief. Qing bit her lip, shaking her head frantically. He took a deep breath. I never expected that in your eyes I was that kind of person. All right, from now on, I will never cling to you again. Oh my God, can they really hear my inner thoughts? This is too strange, it must be impossible. There's no such mystical thing in the world. Ethan walked away. Under Lily White's threatening gaze, Qing frantically pulled at her sleeve. Sister Lily, listen to me explain, it's not like that. Lily White had absolutely no patience, slapping her directly across the face. Your explanations can wait until after school. Who do you think you are to drag me around? Get lost. Everyone stared at Qing, who clutched her arm, bursting into sobs, feeling wronged. But I didn't find her pitiful at all. Because in my previous life, the person Lily White slapped in front of everyone was me. My past self was too foolish and too naive, believing every one of Qing's fabrications wholeheartedly, then carelessly deducing things in my heart. That's why on the very first day, I was beaten half to death by Lily White. But it's all right. This time, it's Qing's turn. That evening after school, Qing hesitated for a long time, finally calling her bodyguards instead of waiting for Lily White. Unable to get her revenge, Lily White became extremely furious the next day. Right at the classroom door, she grabbed Qing's hair and roughly dragged her into the bathroom. This bitch, how dare you disobey me? Are you scared now? Why didn't you think about the consequences when you were spreading rumors? Several slaps landed, leaving Qing dizzy, tears streaming down her face. I didn't say it, I really didn't. How could Lily White ignore my inner thoughts and believe Qing's weak and pale excuses? Another slap landed, and Lily White aggressively declared, I absolutely despise people like you, who won't admit it even when dying. Next time you see me, you'd better bow your head. Lily White strutted away, leaving Qing wailing alone in the bathroom. After that, Qing's days at school became incredibly difficult. Because Lily White had targeted her, none of her classmates dared to be friendly with her anymore. Even those who used to flock around her had now vanished without a trace. She went to and from school alone, occasionally glaring at me a few times to vent her anger. What's wrong? I didn't provoke her, did I? My innocent expression only made her fume with anger, unable to do anything. Meng, do you know something? Though furious, she couldn't blurt out the matter of my fabricated inner thoughts. I feigned even more ignorance. Know what? Why call me a lunatic? She's the lunatic. Or maybe she's gone crazy after being tormented by Lily White for days. No wonder everyone dislikes her and even hopes Lily White beats her to death. It's true that pitiful people have something to blame for themselves. Her eyes rolled back in anger. She pointed at my face, but in the end couldn't utter a word, stomping off in a huff. But Qing's pitiful days didn't last long. My biological brother, Cheng, returned from abroad. So, you're Meng? Just like in my previous life, he was exquisitely dressed in expensive clothes, exuding a wild and arrogant aura. He raised an eyebrow, assessing me with an annoyed expression. I extended my hand. "Brother Cheng, it's nice to meet you." He naturally refused to shake my hand, not even bothering to acknowledge my hand hanging awkwardly in midair. Before he could utter any harsh, sarcastic remarks, my inner thoughts spoke first. Why did Qing say Brother Cheng was a dissolute playboy who wished our parents would die soon to inherit their fortune? He doesn't look that bad today. But why do I feel like he's so hostile towards me? I'm his biological sister, after all. Why does he hate me? My parents' expressions were even worse than if they'd eaten something foul. Their probing glances darted towards Qing and Cheng. Qing was terrified, losing all color, while Cheng almost swung his fist at my face. "Parents, it's not like that. I just needed to innocently observe everything, pretending to be a fool. Meng, go to your room first. Your parents have something to discuss with your brother." I turned to leave but stopped at the corner of the second-floor staircase. In the living room, my father's deep voice was trying to suppress his rage. "So, you wish for me to die every day?" Cheng, with 100 mouths, couldn't explain himself. "I really didn't. Father, I never thought that. I swear to God." His hand, raised to swear, trembled, and his gaze, which should have been firm, was instead vaguely evasive. Yes, he had indeed never said out loud things like wishing our parents dead. But in his heart, he thought exactly that. In my previous life, after I was harmed to death, our parents were also quickly framed and died at the hands of Qing and Cheng. They were exploited by them and ultimately couldn't escape their clutches. They had demons in their hearts regarding our parents, so naturally, they couldn't be straightforward. Cheng's weak explanation, of course, didn't convince our parents, but there were some matters that my parents knew would only cause harm, not benefit, if pursued to the end. "Don't worry, before we die, we will evaluate all 3 of our children to see who is most suitable to inherit the assets. If you yourselves don't strive, I'd rather donate all this money than leave it to you." My father's tone was deep and powerful, sounding very authoritative, but my past life's experience told me that deep down, he still favored Cheng to inherit the assets. It was just that Cheng himself was incompetent and useless, always causing trouble for the family. He was also extremely lacking in confidence, which led him to act cruelly, decisively harming our parents to ensure nothing slipped away. Cheng was now red-faced, standing before them, forcing a laugh. "Parents, please don't believe Meng's words. I truly never thought that way." My father snorted coldly. "You know best in your heart." As soon as my parents returned to their room, Cheng eagerly ran to pick a fight with me. "Meng, are you out of your mind?" His eyes spewed fire, clenching his fists, glaring at me. I looked at him blankly. "What? Who's the one with problems, exactly?" He suddenly squeezed my wrist, gritting his teeth and enunciating each word. "Don't play games with me. As long as I'm in this house for one day, you won't dare bully Qing. Take back your petty tricks." Perhaps they weren't certain if I knew they could hear my inner thoughts. However, what I could be certain of was that, just like in my previous life, Qing had preemptively lodged a complaint before Cheng came home. She must have blamed all her recent suffering and torment on me, which was why Cheng was so hostile towards me. Does it even matter if you're here or not? Staring at this person called brother, I felt no familial affection whatsoever. I sneered. "Who do you think you are?" "An older brother I've never met, trying to act like a big shot in front of me? You should look in the mirror. A greedy animal, only focused on the family fortune, worthy of putting on airs in front of me." He stared at me in astonishment, raising his hand to slap me. "How dare you talk to me like that?" I decisively chose to take this slap, not because I couldn't avoid it, but because it was completely unnecessary to avoid it. "Ah!" I let out a scream, my cries echoing to the heavens. Cheng was still burning with rage. Only when our parents rushed over to tend to my wounds did he snap out of his fury. He stared blankly at his hand. "Parents, don't blame Brother Cheng, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have seen the intimate scene between brother and sister. If not for that, they wouldn't have hit me. Even if they're not biological siblings, don't they feel ashamed? Oh well, maybe there really is love between them. I'll respect and bless them." As soon as I finished, my parents, who were already angry about me being hit, now had bloodshot eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing as they looked at Cheng and Qing. Finally, my father swung his fist, punching Cheng hard in the face. "Ah!" This time, it was Cheng's turn to scream tragically. My father was so angry his eyes bulged. Though the punch wasn't fatal, Cheng was knocked unconscious. The scene was utterly chaotic. My father stood with hands on hips, questioning Qing. "What kind of game are you and Cheng playing?" Tell me, are you worthy of us for doing such a thing?" Tears streamed down Qing's face, her expression as if even jumping into the yellow river wouldn't wash away her sins. Finally, she suddenly looked up at me, the anger in her eyes vanishing, replaced by clarity. "Parents, she definitely knows. She definitely knows we can hear her inner thoughts." Yes, the recent events were too coincidental. Anyone could guess that I knew this secret. My parents turned to look at me, and for a moment, the atmosphere became a bit awkward. At this moment, my inner monologue performance began again. "What? Hear my inner thoughts? They can hear my inner thoughts? That's too mystical." I feigned extreme doubt, performing flawlessly. "Parents, can you really hear my inner thoughts? How can such an unscientific thing be true? Moreover, if you can hear my inner thoughts, then you should believe me even more, right? How can inner thoughts be faked? Aren't they a person's truest thoughts?" "That's right, how can inner thoughts be faked?" No one would know that, after being reborn, I could actively block any thoughts I didn't want others to hear. What they heard was only what I wanted them to hear. My parents didn't show any reaction regarding whether they could hear my inner thoughts, but their cold gaze swept over Qing. "Go to your room, lock yourself in, and repent. Without my and your mother's permission, you are not to step out of that room even half a step." After saying that, they took Cheng to the hospital. Only the two of us remained in the house. Qing rushed in front of me. "Have you known all along? Why are you harming us like this? Why?" I shook off her pulling hand, my tone extremely cold. "There's no why. Didn't you once say that if you steal my childhood, you must compensate me? This is just one of those ways." She suddenly curled her lip, smiling mockingly. "So what if you know this? You can't fight against me. At most, you can only slander me. These harmless little tricks are utterly useless. Your luck is bad, you didn't enjoy it before, and in the future, you'll only serve as a stepping stone for me." It was clear she was very confident in herself. I knew this confidence largely stemmed from her improper relationship with Cheng. That's right, I wasn't fabricating anything. She and Cheng were truly not siblings but lovers. It had been that way even before I returned home. Although this incestuous relationship sounded a bit disgusting, it couldn't be denied that Cheng treated Qing very well. Even in the previous life, when both of them were at the peak of their lives, becoming the rulers of this city, Cheng remained consistently devoted to Qing. It was a pity that Qing kept a bunch of other men outside. When Cheng found out, to resolve the crisis and also to monopolize the assets, she didn't just stop there. She went all the way, acting cruelly even towards Cheng. I remembered that among the men she kept outside, one was our current classmate. Moreover, that person's identity was not ordinary. The morning recitation sounds were orderly, but my inner thoughts, however, were a chaotic mess. Last night I saw Qing and Finn entering a hotel. What were they doing? If they were doing homework, why did Finn have to stop by an adult toy store? Oh my, I really can't understand their affairs. Lily White liked Finn. In my previous life, this was no secret. After all, who would have thought that Lily White, who seemed cold-blooded and ruthless, would commit murder for Finn after graduation and even be sentenced to death? But I wasn't lying. Qing really did have an improper relationship with Finn. Sure enough, Lily White exploded. She shot up, swung her hand, and delivered a powerful slap. Qing was furious, cursing loudly. "Lily White, you lunatic, you're a crazy person. I'm definitely calling the police, I'll call the police." But by the time the teacher intervened, Lily White had already beaten Qing to a pulp. In the hospital, she was coincidentally arranged to lie right next to Cheng's hospital bed. Lily White's mother, at first glance, seemed not easy to get along with. Though dressed luxuriously and exquisitely made up, the aura of "stranger, keep your distance" emanating from her made me feel a chill down my spine. "Well, I apologize for my daughter hitting yours. However, there are a few words I still need to say. Children so young should have their education strengthened. I remember your family also has some reputation in city. Don't let your noble young lady be raised into a vile little slut who only knows how to fight and compete for men all day." The other party's words were indeed very excessive, but I could fully understand. After all, Lily White's mother was not originally a person of noble qualities. Ultimately, the White group was a giant crocodile in another city, and it was not easy to rise from a pork stall to where it is today. Much of it was thanks to Lily White's mother's hard work and tireless efforts. Later, Lily White's father forgot his roots and ran after a mistress, wanting to kick her out of the house. A woman like her, who had spent so many years fighting to reclaim everything that belonged to her, had long developed a different perspective on things than ordinary people. Hearing that the incident of having a man stolen was about to be replayed on her own daughter, her words were still considered mild. My parents had never encountered anyone so overbearing, and they were immediately dumbfounded. It wasn't until Lily White's mother spoke again. "All right, I won't say much else. I'll take responsibility for your daughter's hospital fees. You two remember to educate your daughter well. I'm leaving now." My parents finally couldn't stand it anymore. "Madam, do you know what you just said?" Lily White's mother glanced at them impatiently. "Of course, I do." My parents were so angry they had no outlet. "It should be us criticizing you for not knowing how to raise your child. How dare you use such vicious words to scold our daughter?" Lily White's mother sneered. "As for the reason, she knows best in her heart. For doing things that can't see the light of day, don't just talk about being hit. It wouldn't be too much to ask for her to kneel and kowtow. You two are despicable enough. You abandon your own biological daughter to care for a wild hen that isn't of your own bloodline. No matter how long you raise it, it will still be a vulgar kind. Don't blame me for not warning you too, this little slut. Just one look and you know she's not the innocent type." My parents were so dizzy and lightheaded with rage, and Qing was so furious that she fainted again. The doctor rushed in for emergency care. Cheng joined my parents in cursing. Lily White and her mother retorted. The scene was utterly chaotic, and I quietly left. My parents gained absolutely no benefit from Lily White and her mother. Not only did they not receive an apology that would have soothed their hearts, but they also suffered grievances for several hours, bringing home a stomach full of suffocating anger. Qing cried and begged her parents. "Parents, that Lily White is a lunatic. Why don't you let me transfer schools?" My parents were helpless against Lily White and her mother, but transferring Qing was simple. On Qing's very first day at her new school, Cheng finally couldn't hold back anymore. He paid to hire a few blonde thugs from outside the school, intending to scare Lily White after school. Who knew that as soon as those blonde thugs saw Lily White, let alone laying a hand on her, fawning smiles bloomed on their faces. "Sister Lily, if we had known it was you, even if you gave us 100 guts, we wouldn't have dared to come." At Lily White's signal, Cheng was caught by them and beaten half to death like a stray dog. Unfortunately, Cheng was at fault first. He was the one who called people to cause trouble, so reporting it to the police wouldn't solve anything. And so, Cheng was hospitalized again. But Lily White, due to repeatedly assaulting people, was also expelled from school. While chaos reigned outside, I wasn't idle at all. Finally, on a dark night, my people found Mrs. Land's whereabouts. Mrs. Land's parents lived in Thang Loi village in the suburbs, with a villa on the mountain behind. She was hiding there. To trace Mrs. Land's whereabouts, we naturally had to start with Qing. The detective I hired had seen Qing send several bodyguards from the house to that location more than once. My parents were stunned for half a second, picking up the phone to call the police. Qing screamed shrilly. "Don't!" I knew it. Qing clearly knew she was Mrs. Land's biological daughter. All these years, they had been secretly keeping in contact. Last time the police couldn't find Mrs. Land, wasn't it because Qing had tipped her off beforehand? Her mother swapped Qing and me so she could live a princess's life, while I was abused like an animal. And yet, Qing even took my parents' money to buy a villa for Mrs. Lan. "Parents, you must seek justice for me." My parents looked at me with expressions filled with remorse. Immediately after, they cast a cold gaze towards Qing. They ignored Qing's protests and called the police. The police indeed found Mrs. Lan there. Under professional interrogation, Mrs. Lan confessed all her criminal acts. For human trafficking and child abuse, she was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Qing, in this house, could no longer lift her head at all. "Qing, all these years, you always knew Meng was in your house, didn't you? You beastly mother and daughter, how could you treat my child like that?" My mother couldn't control her emotions, slapping Qing directly across the face. Just then, Cheng walked in with difficulty, frantically running to Qing to stop my mother. "Mother, Qing is innocent, don't treat her like that. We're the real family, we have feelings for each other, don't we?" Who knows what kind of feelings those two have. Just a few days ago, I saw them kissing. That kind of affection is absolutely disgusting. The old matter was brought up again, and my father got angry, clenching his fists but not striking. But Qing is really strange. Flirting with boys at school, all right, let's overlook that. Even coupling with Cheng, we can ignore that. But why does the way she looks at father resemble exactly the way Mrs. Lan looked at her lover? My mother's rage couldn't be contained, my father's face grew even paler, and he kicked Qing directly. "Get out, both of you," Qing cried pitifully, kneeling on the ground. Parents, don't listen to her nonsense. She knows you can hear her inner thoughts. I beg you, parents, please don't kick me out. It's all Meng's fault for framing me. How did I frame her? Did I tell Mrs. Land to swap her and me? If her and Cheng's feelings are pure, would they dare show their chat history to our parents? My parents demanded to see the chat history. Qing naturally refused, and Cheng's face grew even paler. Finally, my father was so angry that he had a high blood pressure attack. He called the bodyguards to throw Qing out, throwing all her belongings out with her. Qing knelt at the gate, crying for 2 hours. Cheng wanted to go help her, but my father shouted loudly, "If you dare to get entangled with that slut again, don't even think about stepping foot in my house from now on." My father's words were perhaps just words said in anger, but Cheng, defying everything, rushed straight out anyway. The two figures gradually disappeared into the distance, and my father successfully infuriated himself to the point of fainting. When my father regained consciousness, he heard a commotion. Brother Cheng gambled outside a while ago, supposedly losing 1 or 200 million. That's a lot of money. Do our parents know? Should I tell them? When will father wake up? I'm so worried about father. My father immediately fainted again. By the time he woke up for the second time, the police had just arrived to ask questions. Your son is suspected of involvement in gambling. Please cooperate with the investigation. Yes, Cheng's life was not clean at all. He was a typical rich idler, whose greatest specialties were eating, whoring, and gambling. This had actually happened once in my previous life, but Cheng had smelled danger early and avoided it all. This time, however, with endless family troubles and Qing being cast aside, he naturally no longer had much mind to guard against these things. Moreover, I had accused him earlier than in my previous life, so even if he wanted to prepare, it was too late. The incident caused a huge uproar. The whole city knew that no matter how biased my father was, he couldn't let a person full of scandals take over the company. Moreover, the recent events had utterly disappointed my father in Cheng. Under the pressure of negative public opinion, the company's shares fluctuated violently. To save the company, at a press conference, my father publicly severed his father-son ties with Cheng. I'd rather donate all the money than let him inherit my assets. Furthermore, my daughter is smart and witty. I will dedicate all my efforts to nurturing her from now on. After that, I became the sole heir of the company. I heard that after Cheng and Qing left home, my father, not wanting to be blackmailed, didn't provide them with a single cent. The two, jobless and expelled from school, temporarily had nowhere to go. They sought help from old friends, only to be terribly humiliated. You think you're still a princess, a young master like before? Don't be stupid anymore. You two aren't even worthy of carrying our books now. After a short time wandering around various entertainment venues, Cheng's debts grew more and more. Not only was one of his arms broken in a beating, but he was also thrown into prison to serve a 2-year sentence. As for Qing, after losing Cheng as her support, she had no way to earn money anymore and ultimately ended up wandering the streets begging. Not long after, she was hit and killed by a large truck. Before she died, she was still screaming, "I'm the real heiress. I will become the real heiress. I will trample all of you under my feet. I, Qing, will one day stand at the pinnacle of this world." Later, my parents wanted to travel. I smiled and didn't stop them. Just like in my previous life, they encountered a landslide and couldn't escape in time, forever buried in the mud. I, however, smoothly inherited all their assets, welcoming a beautiful future that belonged solely to me.